Welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be a freezer meal prep video, and I'm going to take you through all of the things that I made for filling our freezer for the next, I would say, couple of weeks to a month. And I like having meals and items like this on hand because it helps us eat at home, and it helps us eat at home in a convenient way, so we don't always have to cook something right on the spot to have a home cooked meal or home cooked item. So the first thing that I'm starting with are some double chocolate sourdough muffins. And I made a really big batch of this. I made a double batch. Our oldest really likes these before school, so we'll just take one out of the freezer the night before and put it in the fridge and then heat it up in the morning, or just eat it cold. That's fine too. So these were easy to make. They used simple ingredients that I already had at home. I think next time, if I do make them again, I will use butter instead of using avocado oil. I felt like it used a lot of avocado oil, and I feel like maybe it's a little bit cheaper, more cost effective to use butter versus avocado oil because that can be kind of expensive if you're using a lot of it. So that is the only thing I think I would change about this recipe. Everything else was really good. And when I was done cooking these, I just threw them in freezer bags. And then once they were cooled, I threw them in the freezer. When you are doing any type of freezer meal prep and putting stuff in the freezer, make sure you're labeling your bags because it might look very clear but before you put it in the freezer, but once it's frozen, sometimes it's hard to tell what's in a bag, and it's just helpful to have the date and the item that's on there. Next up, these are for our youngest for daycare. So I'm making some oat bites, and the flavor this time I'm making apple cinnamon. And I will put the recipe below for how I made these. These were simple to make and they heat up well. If I was making these for myself, I would probably put some type of sweetener. So I would put maybe like maple syrup or brown sugar in there. I did not add any sugar to this recipe. It was just sweetened with bananas. But for my preference, I think a little bit of sweetener would be good if you're making these for yourself. You might want to incorporate that. But yeah, same with the muffins. I just take these out of the freezer the night before, and then I just put them in the fridge so that they can thaw and they don't need to be warmed up after they're thawed. Next up, I'm getting started on some breakfast sandwiches. So I like to have breakfast sandwiches or breakfast burritos in the freezer. I did breakfast burritos last time, so today I'm going to do breakfast sandwiches. And these are for myself and for my husband just to have something quick to take out of the freezer for breakfast during the work week mainly. So I made these with bagels and egg, provolone cheese, and bacon. And then I buttered the bagel before I put the toppings on. And I feel like this really changed the flavor of it. It added a lot more flavor than if I were just to put stuff on there. So you could also put something like mayo or any type of sauce you like, but I think especially when you're cooking from home and you want to make food taste good, you need to add salt, you need to add seasonings, and you also need to add layers of flavor. And so that's just one simple way you can do it is to add some butter or add whatever your type of favorite sauce is. And for these, will put them in the fridge the night before so they can thaw, and then I will heat it up in the air fryer. We have like an air fryer oven, or I will defrost it and then I will microwave it. So just depends on how much time I have. And then this could be a breakfast or a lunch item. So I am making some Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, and bacon. I think I have onion on there too. So I cut up the sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts, and onion, and then I air fried that, and then I added the bacon on top after. I had some leftover rice from the lunches, so I put some rice in there, and then I just froze those once they were cooled. And then now we have some waffles. So these will probably be for our kids. I probably won't eat these. My husband will probably eat these, but they were really good. So I used the magnolia table recipe. I have both the cookbooks. I think there's actually a third one out now, but I really like the recipes. I don't always follow them exactly. A lot of times I will kind of put my own spin on it or use a different ingredient that I already have on hand. But in general, the basis of the recipes and the ideas of the recipes have all been really good, the ones that we've tried. And then I made some strawberry butter. So it was just strawberries and some strawberry jam. And then I whipped that up. And that can actually be frozen for about 3 months. So I just formed those into very rough looking spears, and then I put those into the freezer so I could flash freeze them and then put them all in a bag. Next up, we have our one lunch items, so or two, depending on if the other Brussels sprout sheet pan was for breakfast or for lunch. But this is a sweet and sour ground beef meal, and I made a simple sauce with some pineapple juice, brown sugar, rice vinegar, I think soy sauce, garlic, and ketchup, I want to say. And this sauce turned out really good, and I've had this for lunch a couple of times this week. It's been a little bit since I actually filmed this footage and did this meal prep that I'm doing this voiceover. But this turned out really good. With these meals, I individually portion them out, and I do that because it makes it a lot easier. So I'm not having to try and take something out of the freezer, try to portion it that way. If you're going to freeze meals, just freeze them as individual portions. It makes it a lot easier. So I have some rice that I cooked in the Instapot, which is my favorite way to make rice. I'll put how I do that below. It's really easy. And then I just put a serving of the sweet and sour beef, and then I froze that once it was cooled. And then next, this isn't going in the freezer, but it's to kind of go with the rest of our items. I have some strawberries and some blueberries. I always like to have some type of fresh produce on hand, and I've been finding that it's a lot easier if I go ahead and prepare and cut and wash everything and put it in the fridge. We're a lot more likely to use all of it instead of letting it go to waste. That's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. My next video is going to be a 5 weeknight dinner recipe video, so I hope you stick around to see that.